Yo, thank you for catching up right here, 26 Sports. This is my first recap episode. We had a little bit of a mix up here with Sergey Lipinets. Was supposed to be on, had a little mix up with the management. We will be working on getting him on soon. Hopefully, this week. We might have a special episode this week. But as of now, we're going to talk about everything that went on over this past weekend. There was a lot of news. There's been a lot of news so far today in the boxing world. So let's jump right into it right now. So let's jump into first. We'll go with this past Wednesday, I believe, with Jonah Carroll, King Kong Carroll. Uh, I talked with Francis Bartholomew on Friday evening about the lack of fans and how that could cause issues with the fights because of how so many fans depend on, or so many fighters depend on the adrenaline from the fans, how that lifts them up to another moment. And he talked about how some fighters are going to have to pull that out of different locations, and it could have been what was detrimental to Jonah Carroll last week. He's coming off his biggest win. He retires Scott Quigg. He goes into this fight and he suffers a hard loss. It was a close fight, but I didn't see the Carroll that we seen versus, um, Tevin Farmer or Squat Quigg for that instance. He was real lackadaisical to me in my eyes. I was a little, thrown off about it because I'm used to seeing something so much better from him, or at least the high volume of punches. It was not there. And again, once I spoke with Bartholomew about it, he talked about the lack of fans could cause that problem for certain fighters because of how they drive off of that. So it makes sense. And, you know, Carroll again was coming off his biggest win, was probably in position for another title shot, and now he may have fallen to the back of the line. But it's something that we've been seeing so far during this pandemic year of boxing. So many upsets, so many high rated fighters losing to lower rated fighters or people that are not known, not thought of, or just for some, especially thought of to just be a quote unquote tune up fight. But it's what happens in boxing, so it's what happened here. And then we'll get into Saturday, man. I'm gonna be honest. Saturday's fight would, of course, with Rollie Romero, left a bad taste in my mouth because I honestly thought he was gonna pull off the win. I was expecting him to win. He was who I thought was gonna do it, and in my eyes, he didn't win that fight. He gave it his all. He tried his best. He did everything he could do, and at the end of the day, in my eyes, he maybe won 5 rounds, possibly only four. Um, but that's the way it goes. And he was given the decision. I don't like to say robbery all the time, but that one to me in my eyes was a robbery, especially the fact that it was a 10-2 scorecard on one of those. That's terrible in my eyes. That's not how it's supposed to be. And it happens, all respect to Rolly for going in there, fighting. As he said, he went from 6 rounds to 12 rounds like that. Uh, didn't have too much of an amateur career, and he fought his heart out in that fight. Jackson Marinez fought hard. I thought controlled the pace of the fight. Certain rounds he was real dominant, using his jab, using his movement, using his boxing style, and a nice ring IQ to what in the eyes of most pull off the victory, but the judges did not see it go that way. And what was really telling about it is so many fighters who know Rolly or from Mayweather Promotions actually come out and say, "Oh, I need those judges for my fights." Or so many fighters come out and say, "I need those judges." It was a bit of banter, joking, but it's they knew what they saw, what most of the world saw, that he should not have been the winner in that fight, and it happens, man. We'll see what goes on. Rolly, to his credit, has said he will give him a rematch. He feels he won, but as he said, he will give him a rematch. He's not hesitant to it, and he wants to fight the best. So I give him credit for calling out the best fighters in the world, and trying to do it. So respect to Rollie. Let's see what happens there. Um, Other fights from that day: Carl Frampton and Darren Trainer. As we know, Frampton is lined up for Jamel Herring, and he did pretty good. I mean, considering his fight was a last week replacement, he handled his own. He did what he was supposed to do. So I'll give him credit for that. But considering Trainer had been knocked out previously, I believe, in 2 or 3 rounds, you kind of expect a little bit more, and it didn't happen. So, hey, it is what it is. Trainer was a bit of a taller opponent. Seemed to present a bit of problems for Carl, but Carl did what he did, got some rounds in, and got the stoppage with a really solid volley shot, especially considering the one that he landed to knock him down in the round previous, which I didn't think Trainer was going to get up from, but props to him for getting up and trying to go another round. When it comes down to it, though, Frampton and Herring, should Herring win his match against Jonathan Oquendo September 5th, I do have Herring winning that match with Frampton. I just think he's a little too big, a little too strong, and Herring just has this heart and will and determination that will not let him suffer a loss in his mind. So I favor Herring, but I do think it's going to be a really good and interesting fight when that fight does go down. And I believe it should be at some point in November. So let's see that goes there. The other fight on that same card, the high profile one, was Michael Mick Conlon going again. He got in a knockout, stoppage late. And I don't want to sound like I'm a hater because I have nothing but respect for Mick Conlon. I think he's a good fighter. I think he's got the possibility to win a belt or two. But I think for me, so early in his career, he was compared to Shakur Stevenson, and I always said that Shakur was leagues above him, and I believe I've been proven right. Shakur is a world champion. He's stepped into 130. He's called for the big fights, and Conlon is still back. I don't think he's able to beat Stephen Fulton or Angelo Leo, the current champion, at 122, which has been discussed. I believe both of them beat him. But Conlon does have skill. He is a talented fighter. So maybe I'll be proven wrong. It's just at this point, I don't think he's there yet. He still needs a little bit more seasoning. But I do see that he more than likely will pick up one belt in his career as long as he stays on the right path. Because he does have heart. He does have that it factor in the way that he presents himself. He draws a big crowd. He has big support, and sometimes that's also something that's going to help you push forward in fights. So I believe he can do it. We'll just wait and see when he's able to pull that off, but I believe he can do it. Also on the zone, besides the main event, the big fight that honored all the attention was Eric Walter and Israel. I'm sorry, I'm not going to butcher your last name. The Majamuriev, I believe that's his name, I'm sorry, train was hype. I mean, you were seeing all of these title eliminators, title fights being brought up for him at 5-0 with 5 KOs. I mean, there was so much talk leading into it, so much hype around this young man. Warranted to an extent, but it still was a little in awe, I guess. When you consider that there's not that many fighters that can do, the type of things that Lomachenko and fighters like that have done in less than 5-6 fights. And Eric Walker, man, he started off really good. He was doing really good for himself, was holding, a really good account of himself. He made it to the contender finale, and he was presenting himself really well. And then the referee, man, put him at such a big risk. It was certainly a knockout. It was a straight, beautiful left hook that was landed, and he was gonna fall. It wasn't the shoulder went into him. He was gonna fall no matter what. And the risks that the commission and that the referee put him in was unwarranted because he deserved so much better than that. The way he fought his heart out in that fight, and for it to be risked like that because they gave him the 5 minutes, and he's a warrior, man. He's a fighter. He was not gonna sit there and say, "Oh, I can't do it." He went out there and fought, and he wasn't the same man. And we're happy that he didn't turn it into a bigger risk because it would have been more bad. If he would have been hurt more seriously or anything like that. So I'm glad he didn't. He kept himself good. He did get knocked down in the 12th round, but he made it to a decision, even though it didn't go his way. But it was just so dangerous for that to happen. And there's two things that'll bring fans together, no matter what side or where you're at in boxing. It'll be the risk that you may put a fighter in, or a terrible scorecard, man. So on Saturday, the fans were united for a little bit. And also, I want to give a big shout out to women's boxing. As you know, I'm a big proponent for women's boxing, women's sports in general, and saw a really good matchup for the undisputed welterweight championships with Jessica Muscal and Cecilia Brinkus, one of the best women fighters of all time. It was a good fight. Jessica was amazing, landing that overhand right all night, especially from the areas. I mean, she was landing both sides. She would duck down, throw that punch right over the top. It seemed to be really frustrating Cecilia, keeping Cecilia on her toes, landing these shots, and it was a good fight. I mean, they both looked a little bit winded, tired, come fifth or sixth round, but they kept pushing, they kept going forward. And Cecilia Cecilia suffered her first loss. She subsequently retired, but had a great speech at the end of the fight. I know it touched a lot of people. She showed true class, true honor, true dignity. She is what champions are. She showed it right there. She was personified with that. Jessica, if you haven't heard her story, it is amazing. I can't tell it because that's something that only she can. To go from being homeless to the undisputed women's world champion is incredible. So shout out to her, respect. Hopefully we can maybe get you on the show sometime. And again, it was a great evening for her. And the show that they put on in Tulsa, though, the production value of it, the way it was brought to us, the way it was presented was amazing. To be having it in the middle of the street like that was incredible. Shout out to Eddie Hearn, Match from USA. That was a great show. And now some of the drama that we've been having. First, we'll start off with Gary Russell and Terrence Crawford. Man, it's crazy because, as we all know, Gary Russell doesn't really get into the ring more than one time a year due to him or whatever. It just doesn't seem to happen that way. And he's calling for a fight with Terrence Crawford at 147. Russell is about 130. He's not a bulky or a big fighter for his weight to begin with. And he's calling for this fight for who knows what. Things from when they were amateurs. But it seems to draw interest. I don't think the fight's going to happen. That I wouldn't really care for it. Not to sound wrong, but it's the truth, Terrence is a legit welterweight fighter. Gary Russell maybe is a 135 lightweight fighter at his best. But that's all I see it as. I don't think they should make that fight. I doubt it's going to be made. But as Gary Russell said, that they were sending the contract over. So we'll see. I doubt it'll happen. The other one that we did hear was Keith Thurman talking about Terrence Crawford, which I would actually like to see that fight, see where Thurman's at. I don't know if Crawford is the type of fighter that he should try to come back against, but respect to him if he does go and take that fight. If he's serious about it, I would love to see it. It would be a real legitimate fighter for Crawford to be in against. And we'll see what happens there. It's going to be tough if it does happen for Thurman. But hey, I mean, you can't fault him for wanting to take the fight. Give him that. So that's what it is there. At the end of the day, Crawford deserves legit fighter, big name. Hopefully, we get that Spence fight at some point soon. But as of right now, he's in limbo with everything else. Other fighters that I would like to see back soon, if it's not Terrence Crawford, uh, you know, Jaime Munguia, of course Canelo. Hopefully Joshua gets his fight with Pulev soon. I know there's been a talk about November, December if they could bring fans back. There's so many names that we want to see, and hopefully it can get done. I know we are going to see certain fighters this Saturday. One of my personal favorite fighters, Sean Porter, is back in the ring. Um, Sebastian Fundora and Nathan Gilmore. That is a great fight, a great test for Sebastian. They call him the Towering Inferno. I mean, that's going to be a great test for him. So many of us are looking forward to it. It's a very interesting and intriguing fight, and I hope we get to see that. To see that Fundora is maybe made of something. To see what he has, because he's an interesting prospect, an interesting fighter to be looking at, and I definitely want to see what he's made of, because Nathaniel is no pushover. He is a legitimate fighter. He's gonna bring it, and I think it's gonna be a good test, and probably see a couple knockdowns for all we know in that fight. So I'm excited to see that. Also, we have Dillian White, Alexander Povetkin, the legitimate heavyweight fight. As we all know, heavyweights grab the attention. It is what has normally been the money division until maybe the last 25 years. But that should be a really good fight. I'm personally more excited for Delphine Peterson and Katie Taylor. That's one of the best fights of the last year, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward to that fight. Personally, I thought it was a draw. Who knows what this is going to bring. I'm glad they were able to get it done, and we'll see what we could get here. Katie Taylor, for her part, if she wins, more than likely will move up, try to go up against Jessica Mascal for the undisputed title at 147. Which, hey, respect to Katie, she's trying to cement her legacy in the sport of boxing, and you got to give her credit for it. Personally, right now, I know there's always all these different names that people are throwing out as the best women in boxing. But without a doubt, no matter what anybody's feelings are about her, at this point in time, there was without a doubt the number one women's fighter in the sport of boxing for women right now is Clarissa Shields. Hands down, she is the top pound for pound fighter in women's boxing. She just got it all, man. Boxing IQ, defensive ability, her punching power is coming up with it. If they do go to 3 minutes, I believe you will start seeing her knock fighters out, and that's just what it is to me at this point. Of course, we have so many other great fighters in women's boxing. Sanessa Estrada, super bad, as you know. You've seen the video of her knocking her out in 7 seconds. We have so many fighters. Amanda Serrano, again, another one of my favorite fighters. Salim Urbina, the HA Diva. Shout out to Franchon Cruz de Zern, a former guest on here. We had her little parking lot confessions. One of the best fighters, hands down, in women's boxing as well. She actually made a call out earlier today, which was very good. So women's boxing is really taking off right now. If you haven't been paying attention, they will. Another future champ that I know is going to be coming up, because she looks to be finally getting her title shot, is Michaela Mayer. Very excited to see her get that title shot. It's going to be a great fight. So women's boxing is on the come up, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. And also the other card for Saturday night, Joe Smith Jr., Eleider Alvarez. Do not blink. Do not close your eyes. Do not turn away for 1 second, because they are going to bring it come Saturday. As we all know, Joe Smith Jr. is one of the hardest punchers in boxing. Eleider Alvarez is one of the top light heavyweights in the world. He does have that tremendous knockout over Sergey Kovalev before he did lose in the rematch. He had a great knockout last year against Michael Seals Jr. That was up in the discussion for knockout of the year, did Eleider Alvarez. So I'm very much looking forward to this fight. He's a legit fighter. These are two legit contenders in the light heavyweight division. And, man, if you like knockouts, pay attention because you're more than likely going to see one this weekend between those two fighters. Um, I can't wait for that one. Hopefully, it's a great fight, and I believe it will be. And now, as you know, as shout out to at SM Boxing said, the calendar has picked up. More fights are coming. We have a great slate this weekend. Another solid slate next weekend. Golden Boy has their card on the 28th. Then we have the 29th with Jose Ramirez and Victor Postal for the unified WBC and WBO junior lightweight titles of the world. I mean, junior welterweight titles, I apologize, of the world. Fight that's already been signed, sealed, and not delivered because of the COVID-19 virus this year. And hopefully, third time is the charm. We also have on that highly rated contender and possible future opponent for if Jose does not get his unification with Josh Taylor or Postal doesn't, depending on the winner. Arnold Barbosa Jr. I've seen him in person. I've seen him fight. Legit fighter. He's got the skills. He will be taking on Tony Luis for on the undercard. He will be serving as a co-main event for that fight. So again, we have a solid slate coming up. Very excited, very interested. There's so many more fights coming. So many more fights those days. So boxing is returning, and we're starting to see some of the names, some of the champions coming back. So it's a good thing to look forward to. One of the last things I'll discuss here is going to be Jermell Charlo and Jermell going at it over Instagram. I believe it's a lot ado about nothing, much ado about nothing. Don't think anything's going to come of it. They're brothers. Brothers argue. Brothers get into it. It's what happens in the sport of boxing and in life. Anybody that has a brother or sister out there, know you've had discussions about it and things happen, but that's it. They're going to be sharing the same card on the 26th, pay-per-view. Everyone's really looking forward to it. They're in against legitimate competition, and all eyes will be on them. Don't make nothing more of it than what's going on. I know he, Lions Only, as he calls it, was very upset this morning. He let his emotions go and made for some entertaining and some intriguing talk with his video, but it is what it is. I don't see nothing much coming from it. The last fight I'll talk about is David Benavidez and Romer Alexis Angulo. The fight really was a disappointment in the sense that Benavidez didn't make weight. He, to me, is one of the best fighters, probably top 15 in the world right now, even though he's so incredibly young. But at this point, that's twice now that he's been stripped of the title without stepping in the ring. It's not a good run to have. I know he's young. He's going to learn from his mistakes, hopefully. But things happen, he went out there, as he said, he had to still go handle his business, which he did. He won dominantly. Of course, the fight we all want to see is him and Caleb Plant. And hopefully that fight can get done if David can make the weight. But with him being stripped, it created some very, very interesting scenarios that are popping up. Shout out to Jake Donovan, who actually posted about the boxing scene. Of course, the one and only Canelo put his name into it. Callum Smith, the WBC Diamond 168-pound champion, put his name into it. I'm not going to say his name because I'm probably going to butcher it too. But the Turkish contender, I'm sorry, I can't say that name. But he also put his name into it, and he's the legit number one contender. So, of course, everyone's talking. What's going to come? Who's going to get the spot? Canelo's probably going to face the number one contender. It's just what probably makes more sense financially and thoughtful-wise to bring attention to the fight, to draw some eyes. Canelo going for a legitimate title at the 168-pound division. And hey, maybe if Benavidez wants his title back, put him in there with Callum Smith, and the winners of those two fights meet each other. If not, hey, let's do Canelo and Callum Smith and get it going. Hopefully as soon as possible, because we want to see that. We want to see Canelo back in the ring. and we want to see him against a legit 168-pound fighter, which I think we will. I mean, he's got bad luck this year with uh, the COVID, shutting things down. Of course, the fight with Billy Joe Saunders was being discussed, and then Billy got his license revoked for some videos that he made in poor taste. I won't get into it. I won't give that any light, man. I don't like anything that's negative towards women, so I'm not gonna give it light. Um, and we'll see what comes. Hopefully, Canelo gets that fight against a legit 168 pound fighter, which I think he finally will get a fight this year because it needs to come. And hopefully, the zone and him can come up to some more agreement and pay him out or pay him what he needs. At least I know the financial issues right now are bad with the whole sport of boxing, but they got to work something out because what is supposed to be the face of boxing is close to going another year without a fight. So hopefully they come to an agreement and we get to see those, and hopefully we see some more good, great fights in the next coming weeks and months, as we've seen with the PBC card rolled out. Man, they have some nice work there. Very very good cards coming up for them. Top Rank returns on the 22nd this Saturday, and Golden Boy has one on the 28th. Hopefully Fortuna gets that fight. What El Hector Tanajera. Hopefully that fight gets done. It gets agreed, and we can see that fight as well, because that's going to be a good one. El Finito, who just signed a contract with Rick Meridian here out of Fresno, California, who made a big splash signing 4 very legit fighters. Hopefully we can get them on the show as well. So for everybody that tuned in right now, caught this little impromptu episode, thank you guys for paying attention, catching on real quick. We will be back on Friday with Luis El Pantarita Neri video in Spanish. Episode number 3 for Spanish will be this Friday with Luis El Pantarita Neri. Again, we might get Sergey Lipinets at some point during the week. I will post about it in case it does get done. And we'll go from there, guys. So everybody that watched and paid attention and caught this little quick episode, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for the love and support. Again, let's try to get this to 100 subscribers right now. And after that, just keep plugging and pushing away. So thank you again, everybody, for tuning in. This is 26 Sports quick recap and return week. So we'll see you, and pay attention to the fights, guys. Let's get it going. Thank you guys for tuning in.